1, 2. Check. 1, 2. So, a couple weeks ago, I went to my first ever Gamescom. If you're not familiar, Gamescom is this massive industry event and public event for video games in Europe. It's specifically in Cologne, in Germany. Anyway, so massive event, and it was great. It was fantastic. So basically in this short kind of ad-lib vlog that I do, I wanted to share 3 ways that you can go out and make worthy connections that will lead to paid work at some point in the future. And these are things that I do every time I go to an event and things that I teach my students. And it works, it really does. So, and they're really simple, and you can totally implement this next time you go to any sort of event. It doesn't have to be the biggest one in Europe, but we'll use Gamescom as a starting off point specifically. So the first one might be obvious, but it is do your research beforehand. This can mean several things. The first one is to find out who is actually going. This could be people that you haven't met before that you'd like to meet. It could be people that you do already know and you want to just, say hello, hang out again, reinforce that connection, that relationship or friendship that you have with that person. This starts by going on social media, seeing who's talking about it, seeing who's been posting about going to Gamescom or going to a convention, and finding out who's going basically. The other way to do this is to look at the list of speakers. For example, before Gamescom, there's a 2-day event called DevCom, which is more in line with industry people rather than the public, and you can find out who's talking. A great way of finding out who might be talking about something you might be interested in, and then possibly meeting that person after their talk. Also doing your research so that when you do meet somebody in person that you've looked up online, for instance, you know a little bit about them, so you can start a conversation with them. Maybe you know a project that they worked on that you really admire their work on, or that they're known for. It just makes that first connection a little bit easier. So do your research. Find out who's going. It can be on social media, it can be on the actual official channels that the conference puts out. For instance, I knew that a lot of my friends from Fmod were going because they had a stall there, so I could hang out with them. I knew a bunch of composer friends who maybe were talking at DevCon beforehand, or who were just attending Gamescom in general, who I could message beforehand and let know that we could say hello to each other. On the other side of things, I was there also to meet my colleagues on Morbid Metal, so all the other people working on the game, including, for instance, it's going to sound crazy to say this, but the first time I got to meet Valentine, the first time we met each other. And Valentine, for those of you who don't know, is my colleague at Double Jump Audio, and we've been working together for the better part of over a year now, basically, on projects. And for one reason or another, we haven't been able to meet, but we finally did at Gamescom, which is great. I met everybody else as well who was working on Morbid Metal, and I was also there to do a music panel at the Ubisoft booth and location inside one of the halls. So I had people messaging me as well, for instance, wanting to say hello, wanting to meet up because of that as well. So again, finding out what's going on, finding out who's going, it's a great first step and really easy to do. So that leads on pretty naturally onto the next step, which is messaging beforehand and setting up some meetings. There is a Meet to Match app, or a B2B business to business app at Gamescom, and most conferences use one platform or another, and it's basically a very formal setting where you can put up a profile and message people directly and find out if anybody is looking for whatever you're offering, your services. So that's a great place to start. Of course, this is like an additional ticket that you might have to purchase. I know lots of friends, and I do the same thing as well, going on social media and setting up meetings that way. Maybe more informally, but just say, hey, would love to meet, love to chat, and you set up a meeting via LinkedIn is a great place to start, and you just pick a location and meet up with somebody. Gamescom especially, and most conferences, are very busy. People have very little time. So getting something concrete in the calendar is a great way of making sure that you don't miss your chance of meeting somebody. Yeah, so messaging beforehand. Again, back to the people that you've researched, you can just say, hey, would love to meet. I saw that you're talking, or I saw that you're going to be there as well. Hopefully we get to catch up. Are you going to be free on this day, or would you like to meet at this hall or this exhibit? Anywhere, but you're sending a message beforehand. That way when you do meet, it's also easier to break the ice, because you can say, hey, I'm that person who messaged you on LinkedIn, for instance. The final one, and probably the most important, is find out what social events there are after convention hours. These are usually the amateur organized kind of drinks or dinners or whatever, events after the actual event. Really important. For instance, at almost every event, there's a game audio drinks set up by somebody. This year it was set up by Victor, who runs Flutu Music. So thank you to Victor for setting that up again. I think he does it pretty much every year. It was great to meet him as well. And at these events, I get to meet so many people I already know, people who I didn't know, and I get to make new connections, and we get to share that common ground of audio and nerding out over audio stuff. My favorite conversations are the ones where we stay up late at a bar, drinking and eating and talking about the most specific things that you can do in middleware or game audio adaptivity. Super nerdy stuff that is so specific, but it's where else is that going to happen? And it's really fun. I enjoy it anyway. Needless to say, these events, finding out about when these events happen and if there are any, it's as simple as asking around or going on meetup.com, typing in the name of the convention and finding out if there's anything being organized. And again, tickets are free, but you can just reserve your spot, make sure that you're going. You can see who else is going. Another place to see who's going, message them beforehand if you have somebody of interest you'd like to talk to. Additionally to that, I was very lucky this year to be invited to Bastion's barbecue, kind of like a little informal setting to finish off the week. It was the perfect way to finish off the week. So again, thank you, Bastion. You're amazing. We also got to watch him in action as the Foley maestro that he is, which was really cool to see. And again, a really nice place to sit with people. And this is where the connections are made, these real kind of these long-lasting connections, I think, are made, where you're just hanging out, it's nice and chill, and you're not really trying to force anything, you're just showing up. So the final thing that I want to say about all of this, kind of these tactics about getting the most out of your conventions is, if there's one thing that you do, only one thing that you do, please make it that you just show up to these events, that you just attend them, right? I'm going to run a little statistic with you, right? If you don't show up, there is 0% chance of you making any connections, and therefore pretty much 0% chance of you finding work in the future. If you do attend, the possibility is literally endless, right? Because you're just putting yourself in a position to meet people, and it really doesn't take much more than that. So remember that. Next time you feel a little bit stressed about preparing or thinking about going or not going, just show up, buy a ticket, show up, and you'll be doing amazing things for you and your career. So that's it. Gamescom was great. People were great. Look forward to the next one. And hopefully I'll be making more blogs in the future. Yep, that's it.